Doing a little job today along the northern side of the croft. It's where the outer skin of the shelterbelt's been planted up. Now, most of the trees that we got down here are quite small still, but one of them is one we brought with us 3 years ago and planted up, and that is about 5.5 feet. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to stake that down to the ground to change the shape of it and train it up. Let me just show you. So you can see the newer trees, that's what, just past my knee. And as we go along, you can see that every 10 feet in some places, and then every, 5 feet maybe, you can see that we've got little pine trees continuing right the way along. And as they get big enough to the size of this one, what we're going to do, going to bend them sideways and stake them down. Well, they're still quite young and they'll bush out from that direction. Again, it's emulating nature. You see that these are all sorts of species, all sorts of types, but most of these are Scots pine. I'm not sure what this one is. This is a freebie that came with toilet roll about 7-8 years ago. We've had it a fair while. It's a tiny little seedling when we got it. It's about 3-4 inches high. It came through the post. So we're going to hammer a stake in, and then we're going to bend this tree over so that as it grows up, then it'll grow outwards in that direction and outwards in that direction. And by the time these trees are done, after 4 or 5 years, they'll be forming an interlocking network of pines, and then they'll come up vertical and they'll give us 3-4 meters of height and give us a huge amount of protection, because that's the north, so it's pretty cold. Then winter winds, when they come in, are fairly extreme. And between us and the loch, there's the road. So obviously we want to reduce the sound from that. Not that we hear it often, but so yeah, look. There's a little mouse hole. You see all the little footprints coming on. See, the sun's relatively low in the sky, sort of mid-afternoon. So it's nice seeing the shadow and see where all the footprints go. At this time of day, it's really easy to follow tracks. Right, first things first, I need to get a stake hammered in. So, it's a decent sized ash stake, but you can use just about anything. I'm going to hammer it in at an angle, and I've placed it so that when that's down, that's more or less the right place to tie onto there. So I'm going to put it at an angle so that when the ground thaws out, it's not just going to put it straight out, it's going to give it. There we go. Now, if I just tied string off to that, that's going to cut through the bark and it's going to make a terrible mess. It could even ring bark it and kill it. What I got there is just a strip cut from a basic inner tube from wheelbarrow, I think. And it's fairly knackered, it's not good for much, but it'll hold here for a year or so, and that's all we need it for, really. So that gives me something to tie off to. So, string, bit of cord, and let's go do a basic overhand knot on that, so that's just a loop now that's through the rubber bit, and I'm going to bring that down and just hook that under there, and that's not going anywhere. And it means that when I'm done, because that's got so much tension on it now, it means I can reuse that cord. It won't be a problem. I won't have to cut a bit off it to loosen it up or anything, and that's not going anywhere. So all these branches now, over time, will come up and it'll continue to grow in that direction. And even this branch here, once it's get big enough, we might train out as well, so that we're creating a much wider kind of pine. So as these things all start to lock in together and then go vertical, it's the outer skin, and these aren't really going to be here permanently. You know, 10, 20 years time, these will get cut down slowly over time as other trees come through there's some more of the sort that we want. These don't have particularly good edible nuts, they're too small to bother with, but there are other pine trees that we could swap them out with over time, and as other species start to come through. But the other species will need a little bit more shelter just to get established, and that's what these are for. They're just pioneer species that are going in for a couple of decades.